My sister said I wasn't polished enough to stand in a room full of her husband's clients. Then she asked me to keep my name on $27,000 worth of vendor contracts. I pulled every single one. The charity gala they'd spent 8 months building collapsed in a single weekend. And when the fallout started, when the florist walked and the catering package evaporated, and her husband's biggest clients started asking questions, they called me. 12 times in one evening. I watched my phone light up from the porch of a lake cabin in Tennessee and didn't answer a single one. I'm a catering coordinator. Not the kind that gets photographed at rooftop venues or tagged in glossy event recaps. I work corporate luncheons, regional trade shows, the occasional retirement party in a church fellowship hall. I built my business slowly, year by year, out of reliability and good relationships, and a willingness to show up at 5:30 in the morning when everyone else sends an email instead. My office is a converted second bedroom with a whiteboard and 2 filing cabinets. My car smells like tablecloths and the industrial sanitizer I buy in jugs. I am practical and unglamorous, and I have never, not once, been ashamed of either of those things. My sister is a different kind of person. She married into a different world. That's how my mother phrases it, like a geography, rather than a choice. Her husband is in commercial real estate, the kind with his name on the side of a building downtown, and a profile in the regional business journal, and strong opinions about development corridors that he delivers at city council meetings like someone who has practiced in front of a mirror. They live in a neighborhood with a name. They go places that require a passport and come back with the kind of tan you can't get in 2 weeks. And my sister, who grew up in the exact same 3-bedroom house I did, who once cried so hard on my couch over a boy who ghosted her that she couldn't eat for 2 days, has rebuilt herself so completely that some nights I look at her and can't find a single seam where I used to fit. That's not bitterness. I want to be clear about that. I made my peace with the distance between us a long time ago. She moved up. I moved differently. We still did dinners twice a month and called on holidays, and there was still something real between us, even if it was smaller than it used to be. The gap was manageable. Until this spring, when she asked me for help. They were hosting a charity auction gala. Black tie, 300 guests, a hotel ballroom in the center of downtown. Her husband's development company was a platinum sponsor. The point, she explained to me over coffee at a restaurant she'd chosen, was visibility. His clients would be there, his competitors, 2 journalists from local outlets. This wasn't just a party. She was very clear about that. This was positioning. I need someone who actually understands vendors, she said, tilting her head in that way she has, the one that makes requests sound like compliments. Caterers, rentals, florists. The hotel has their own event team, but they're impossible. I need someone inside managing everything. She looked at me across the table, like she was offering me something. And maybe she was, in her way. But she was also asking me to do the work I do for a living, for free, for her event. Because I was good at it, and also because I was her sister, and those 2 things had apparently become interchangeable. I said yes. That's the version of me I was then. The one who hadn't yet separated availability from love. Over the next 8 months, I became the invisible engine of their gala. I negotiated the catering contract, a 3-week process involving the hotel's food and beverage director, a subcontractor, and 2 rounds of revised menus. I sourced a florist willing to work within their budget, which I got below estimate because I'd sent her business for 4 years, and she trusted me. I handled the linen rentals, the specialty bar sauce, the dessert vendor I'd worked with long enough to know she'd do something extraordinary if given the latitude. When the hotel's event coordinator resigned in January, I stepped in to manage the transition myself, driving across town on a Saturday to sit in a meeting no one had officially invited me to because it needed to happen, and I was the one who knew how. My name was on the deposits. My accounts backed the commitments. $27,000, spread across 6 vendors, all of it running through me. It never occurred to me that I wouldn't be at the event. Of course I would be. I was the one holding the thing together. The call came on a Thursday. I was in my car outside a supply warehouse, working through an order manifest with a highlighter. My sister's name came up, and I picked up without thinking. The way you do when someone has never yet been a reason to pause. Her voice was soft, careful. The kind of careful that isn't care. Hey, she said. I wanted to talk before everything gets locked in. Okay, I said. The guest list. She exhaled. Darren wants it really selective. His clients, his sponsors, the media contacts. It's gotten a little political. I waited. I just think, she said, with the room he's curating, everyone needs to feel cohesive. Like a specific energy, you know? I still didn't say anything. I love you, she said. And I knew. I knew the moment she said it, because people only lead with that when they're about to do something you'd never forgive otherwise. But this just isn't really your world, and I don't want you to feel out of place. Are you telling me I'm not invited to the event I've been managing for 8 months? A pause. Then I'm saying the list is what it is. She hung up before I could say anything else. Or maybe I hung up. I'm not entirely sure. I sat in that parking lot long enough that a guy loading pallets knocked on my window to ask if everything was okay. I told him yes. I wasn't sure yet. I called my mother that night. She answered on the second ring, already carrying that specific warmth she deploys when she's braced for something. Sweetheart, I heard you two talked. Of course she had. She cut me from the guest list, I said. I have $27,000 committed to 6 different vendors under my personal accounts, and I'm not invited to the event. You know how she gets when she's stressed. My mother's voice took on that soothing, tilted quality, the one designed to make your problem feel like a minor misunderstanding. Darren has a lot riding on this. She's managing his expectations, and it's a lot. She said it isn't my world. A silence. Then, well, honey, it is a different kind of event, not really the sort of thing you're usually involved in. She paused carefully. Just give her some grace. Be the bigger person. Be the bigger person. I had heard that phrase so many times over the course of my life that it had started to feel less like advice and more like a diagnosis. Like something they called me when being reasonable had stopped working, and they needed me to absorb the cost of someone else's choices. I said, okay. I said I'd think about it. I hung up and stood at my kitchen window in the dark for a long time, watching a neighbor's porch light buzz and go out. 2 days later, I was clearing my inbox when a notification came from a number I recognized. My cousin, who'd been loosely part of the event planning circle and always tried to stay neutral between my sister and me. Oh, no, wrong chat, she sent immediately after. I am so sorry. Please don't read that. I had already read it. It was a screenshot from a planning thread I'd never been included in. My sister's message sat near the top of the chain. She's great for back-end stuff, but she'd stick out at this thing. Darren already said something. I just don't want to manage it. Beneath it, in blue text, my mother's reply. I know. Don't give her too many details, and she'll keep helping. She always does. I read it 3 times. Not because I didn't understand it, because I was trying to find a way to be wrong about what it meant. She always does. Not she's generous. Not she loves us. Not she's been carrying this for 8 months without a single complaint. Just, she always does. Like my consistency was a natural resource, present, renewable, requiring no acknowledgement. I saved the screenshot. Then I opened my vendor portal. I won't pretend there was drama in it. There wasn't. There was just a kind of quiet, clear-headed efficiency that I think I'd been saving up for a while without knowing it. The catering contract came up first. Weeks of negotiation, carefully structured, and I sent the cancellation notice to the provider and the hotel's event team within 2 minutes of each other. The florist got a personal email, because she deserved that, not a form notice. I told her I was stepping back, and that she'd need to establish her own standing with my sister's team. I thanked her. I meant it. Linen rental. Bar service. Specialty dessert vendor. One by one, I withdrew my name from every agreement, every deposit, every personal guarantee that had been holding the structure up. It took 19 minutes. 19 minutes to undo 8 months of quiet, invisible labor. I sent one email to my sister and her husband. No subject line, no greeting. I have removed myself from all vendor agreements associated with the April 19th Gala, effective immediately. Please contact each service provider directly to confirm your own arrangements. Just my name at the bottom. Nothing else. I shut the laptop and poured a glass of water and stood in my kitchen for a while. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel anything that I had a good word for. What I felt was like putting down something I'd been carrying so long I'd stopped noticing the weight. Not relief exactly. Just different. Like my posture had changed. The next morning I booked a cabin. 4 nights in eastern Tennessee. A place I'd found online 2 years ago and kept saving for later, because there was always something more pressing. I packed light. Clothes for 4 days. A book I'd started and abandoned twice. Enough groceries to not need to leave the property. I told no one where I was going. I just drove. The cabin was small and smelled like wood smoke and cedar, and it had a porch that looked out over a valley that went quiet enough at night you could hear your own heartbeat. I made coffee in the mornings with a pour-over I'd packed and sat outside and watched the mist come off the hills. I didn't answer emails. I didn't open my vendor portal. I didn't explain myself to anyone. I turned my phone on the second morning, not because I was ready, but because I was curious. 43 notifications. My sister had called 9 times. Her husband, 7. My mother, 14. There were voicemails, texts. 3 calls from numbers I didn't recognize, which turned out, when I checked later, to be vendors who had no established contact on the event and were trying to reach whoever was in charge. I listened to 2 voicemails and stopped. The first was her husband. The kind of controlled that only barely is. His voice had that thin, brittle quality of someone used to making things happen, who has just encountered something he cannot make happen. We need to address the vendor situation today. Call me back. The second was my mother. She sounded like she had been crying, or had decided crying was the appropriate register. I know we didn't handle things well, she said. I know that, but there are 300 people coming in 12 days, and this is a real situation. Please just call us. Whatever you need. Whatever that looks like. Please. Whatever you need. I sat with that phrase on the porch and watched a hawk make long, unhurried circles over the valley. Whatever you need. 2 weeks ago, what I needed was to be in the room I'd built. That had seemed like too much to ask. My cousin called on the 3rd day. Not to debrief, just to check. Are you okay? She asked. I'm in Tennessee, I said. She was quiet a beat. Stay. She told me, gently and without editorializing, what had happened. The gala had proceeded. But without the catering company I'd sourced. They had no alternate arrangement confirmed. The florist hadn't shown, because no one from my sister's team had ever actually contacted her directly after I withdrew. The linen inventory came from the hotel's own stock, which cost twice as much and wasn't enough. Dinner ran behind. One of her husband's most significant clients left before the auction portion of the evening. Is she blaming me? I asked. My cousin took a long breath. She's saying you abandoned the project. I laughed. A short, dry sound. Abandoned. 8 months. $27,000. 19 minutes. The 3rd night, my phone rang with a number I'd known my whole life. My grandmother. She's in her 80s and does not text, does not use social media, and only calls when she has something to say. When her number comes up, you pick up. I heard, she said before I got a word out. Mom told you? Your mother told me some of it. I filled in the rest. A long pause. Something moved in the tree line below the cabin, something large and quiet passing through. They needed your hands, she said. Until they didn't need your face. You understand what I'm telling you? I understood. That's not about you, she said. That has never been about you. You could have walked in there in a ball gown, and they still would have found a reason. Because you being there would have required them to see you, and seeing you would have required them to reckon with what they owe you, and that's uncomfortable for people who have built their life around never feeling uncomfortable. She paused. You did right. I didn't say anything for a while. Just held the phone and watched the stars come up over the ridge in the particular thick, unhurried way they do when there's no city light to compete. Thank you, I finally said. Don't thank me, she said. Just don't go back and make it easy for them. I drove home on the 5th day. The light over the mountains as I pulled out was one of those late afternoon things that doesn't feel real. gold and low and generous in a way that makes even ordinary landscapes look deliberate. I took a photo through the windshield, posted it without a caption. Just the light, just the leaving. Here is what I know now, looking back from the distance of a few months. I am not over it in the way people mean when they say that phrase as a compliment. I don't think clean breaks exist with family. I think there's just the wound, and then the scar. And then eventually, the scar becomes part of the texture of who you are, and you stop noticing it every single day. And that's the closest thing to healed that's available. My sister and I haven't spoken. Her husband sent one email, measured and professionally worded, suggesting I had acted impulsively and that we could revisit a working relationship when things settled. I didn't respond. My mother and I are in something that feels like a truce. She calls. I answer sometimes. We talk around the large silence in the center of every conversation, like two people navigating furniture in the dark. What I know for certain is this. I spent years believing that reliability was a form of love, that being the one who showed up was its own reward, that eventually people would see it, and the seeing would feel like something. But reliability without regard isn't love. It's extraction from someone who hasn't yet learned that they're allowed to say no. I have 2 new catering contracts this month. One is the largest I've ever signed on my own terms. When I sat down to negotiate it, I noticed I did it better than anything I'd committed to in years. Maybe because this time I knew exactly what I was worth. Maybe because no one had recently taken 18 months to quietly demonstrate all the ways I didn't fit. You're not overreacting for wanting to be in the room you furnished. You're not dramatic for feeling the weight of being made invisible by people who claimed to love you. And you are not the problem, just because you were the most convenient one to blame when everything fell apart without you. I stayed quiet for a long time, and in the end, my silence was louder than anything I could have said. If any part of this sounded familiar, if you've ever been the person holding something together for people who couldn't quite bring themselves to see you, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me if you've ever put down something that wasn't yours to carry and what that felt like. If you want more stories like this, real ones, about the moments when people finally stop explaining themselves and start choosing themselves, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. I'm here every week. No polish, no filter. Just the truth, exactly as it happened.